Welcome to my YouTube channel, Kochofosu Inspires. Subscribe if you've not subscribed yet. Just click down below there so you get all the notifications when there's a new video posted. Today we'll be looking at understanding system theory in politics from a Ghanaian context. Before we begin, we'd want to engage ourselves with some thoughtful questions to actually prepare the mind, to situate our mind to understand what we are about to ponder over or we're about to discuss in this particular session. The first question we want to ask yourself is, what do you think would happen if teachers, nurses, or police refuse to work? What happens if parliament stops working for a month? Do you think your voice as a student or a citizen matters in government decisions? And the questions may be, if teachers go on strike, students will miss lessons and exams will be delayed. Likewise, if nurses refuse to work, hospitals cannot treat patients. People will suffer and people even may die. If police withdraws, safety in other words will break down. And if parliament stops, no new law or budget are passed affecting the whole country at large. So all these examples are part to make us understand that they're all part of what? A system, or they're all connected. And just like a machine, if one part that breaks down, it refuses what? To work. The quote over here was said, in real life, everything is connected like a machine, right? Everything is connected like a machine. So imagine Ghana as a society, as a country at large, like a big machine, such as a car. Let's imagine Ghana as a big machine, such as a car. It has an engine, it has a wheel, it has a battery, and all must work together. If the battery, if the battery fails, even if other parts are working, or we mean if the wheels are working, if the engines are working, and the battery is not working, the car won't move, right? So if the battery fails and every part is working and that will not move, it means that in real life, if teachers, if hospitals, if court, if parliament, and even students are all part of what? Of the Ghanaian what? System or the social what? Machine. So when one part fails or what? Stops working, it affects the whole what? System. So we say in real life, everything is connected like a machine. So the next thing we're going to look at is the concept of a system. What at all is a system? I will say a system is a set of what? Interrelated and interdependent parts that works together to perform a function. And the questions we pondered over previously has given us that illumination and that enlightenment to know that indeed they work together to actually what? Perform a certain function. So if you have a car, the engine, the wheels, and the body itself all comes together to perform a certain function. Likewise, having to have in mind a nation, there are certain components within the nation that will come together to work to make sure the nation will function. So another meaning can also be a system is a group of what parts that works together. If one part breaks down, the whole thing may stop working properly. And as we all know, or we've attested to by our previous slides that I displayed. So the types of system. We'll be interested in political system. That'll be our focus. That's what we're going to be interested in. So, but there are other systems also. The economic system, there are social systems, there are cultural systems, right? But let's ponder over this for now. So when it comes to the political system, there's a government, we have government election, a lot of things that are part of the political system. The economic system has trade, has taxation, has jobs. Social system, there's family, there's tradition. The cultural system, music, language, beliefs. All these are different types of system. But our interest in this particular video will be the political system. For example, think about electricity system or fuel price. Let's use this as an example, just to give you an understanding of some things. So if we have the electricity system at play right now, so if one substation fails, we may what? Experience what? Dumsor. And that dumsor, we call it in the Ghanaian term, dumsor refers to frequent power what? Outages. So that dumsor that's about to happen over here, hospitals will have no power, schools cannot use their computers, even the internet for certain places may go off if they are relying on what? The national grid solely, or that particular substation solely for what? For power. So you realize that one component of that particular electricity system, which is a substation, failing, can affect what? A portion of what? Of the country. Also, fuel prices. So if fuel prices rises, transportation costs will go up, right? So farmers will pay more to send food to the market. Foodstuffs will increase, and some students may struggle to even pay for transportation to school. Up getting so you realize that fuel prices has gone up, and what does it do? It has a ripple effect on other certain aspect of of life. So let's have this at the back of our mind as we explore, we delve into the political system, and we explore through the lens of David Easton's system theory. We will then come to appreciate all these nuances and how it comes to play and how it works very well for you to get better. So we are going to introduce ourselves to what Easton system theory, which is what we wanted to look at, or the primary thing we wanted to focus on. So David Easton was a political scientist, and some of you already know the background of David Easton. I don't want to go up through that to bore you with that. He said politics works like what? A system like what? Works like a system like a cooking process. So I would want to explain that. So for example, we have ingredients, which are the citizens' demand. The ingredients over here are the citizens' demand. So what people want to, or what they need. The cooking process is what? Government debating and making what decisions. We'll go and ponder over them, and we'll go in depth into all these things. And then the meal, we have a meal. The meal is what? The law or the policy. And then the taste or testing it has to do with citizen giving feedback. So we'll be going through all these things as to understand it better. With this diagram, you realize that you see what? An input, having a cooking system. What do you see? You see an input over here, and then you see the process going on. The process over here is when the cooking is going on, when government is debating. So for example, if I want to prepare jollof rice. So the input over here are the ingredients. What do I need for jollof rice? I need tomatoes, I need oil, I need pepper, I need onion. All these are the input. Then what comes in? We go to the processing box. So the cooking process. What do I have to put in first? Then okay, fine. I just have to get the onion, the pepper, the garlic, the ginger. We'll have to blend them, put oil on fire so that it goes in the process over there. Then the meal is the output. When I'm done and you have that jollof rice to eat, the Ghana jollof rice to eat, that is the output, right? And then and then the tasting, the tasting that comes in over there is when people are around, they taste and they're like, oh, your jollof really tastes nice. Your jollof is really good. Somebody, oh, it doesn't taste nice. So if it doesn't taste nice, then I'll have to go back again. When I'm cooking, then I have to make sure if something was missing, I deal with it. Maybe your jollof didn't have salt, you forgot to put salt in. So the feedback will tell you, no, this jollof doesn't have salt. I hope you're getting me. That is how to have that at the back of your mind. And then we're going to explore this in relation to the political system. I'm going to use the political system to explain this, but this is just to give you a mental picture from a cooking perspective. Then we'll come to the political system. So, Easton's political system. So David Easton saw politics as a system of what? Input, processing, output, and what? And feedback. That's how he saw politics as input, processing, output, and feedback, which is very important. So, for example, the things over here, citizens are asking for free education, which is the input over here, and then government debating, the processing. Then the free SHS lunch is the output. The people's reaction, the feedback, telling the government, okay, the policy is good. Okay, no, I think when our children are going to school, it gets to some point, their food, they're not eating better, or the food is not coming through. Then government will then have to maybe liaison with buffer stock in the Ghanaian context to make sure that foodstuffs are being delivered to all the previous, all the numerous SHS schools around. I hope you're getting me, out of the feedback of what the people are saying. Then this is the diagram, or have this mental picture of what David Easton's explanation, where you see outside, you see the environment. Outside the environment, you see the input. The input comes with two lines. These lines are pointing to what? Demand and support. That means input goes with a demand. the demand from its citizens. The support is support from its also citizens to be able to help government to be able to what help deal with their demand. All comes in this regard. Then there is this box we call the black box or the processing box, where the mysteries goes on, all the pondering goes on, where the deliberations, the debate, where they have the calculations, the maneuvering of things, trying to do all their permutations. This is where it goes on the processing what box, the black box. Then the decisions, which comes to be what the output, right? Then there's a feedback that goes in that in that regard. We're going to explore this one after the other. We're going to take the components one after the other, from the environment to the input to the processing box to the output, then to feedback and to gateway. We're going to do all this. So the key components we've already mentioned, which is the environment, the input, processing box, output, feedback, and then gatekeepers. We're going to look at all this. So what is the environment? What is the environment? So the environment over here in the system theory, the environment refers to everything outside the political system but affects it. Everything that is outside the political system that affects it. That is the environment. So the environment may be made up of organization, global influence, social, economic, or political factors. That is in a nutshell of the environment. The environment will come into two parts, which is the external and the internal environment. The external and the internal environment. So we're going to take the external first, then we'll move on to the internal environment and explain them in that order. So external environment. These are what we are looking at, what international actors or events that affect the country's political system and decision making. So this particular external environment we are referring to, they are going to affect the country's decision making. But what you should put in mind is that they are not within the country. This is external. So for example, the IMF. When Ghana went to the IMF for an IMF bailout, what happens is that they are giving conditionalities. These conditionalities may come in the form that you don't have to pick people, you don't have to employ people in the public sector for a particular point in time. Government will have to maybe scrap subsidy of certain products, maybe petroleum and all those things. All these conditionalities given by the IMF is what we call the external environment that is having an impact on it. So, for example, if the people, government as a member of ECOWAS, government is a member of ECOWAS. So currently, since we're using Ghana as a content or case study, some people in Ghana recently, which is within the period of August 2025, were calling on government to get Nigerians out of their retail market and all these things and all those kind of stuff, and then wholesale and all those things. But Ghana is part of the ECOWAS, and the ECOWAS charter we are part of allows people, foreigners also engage in wholesale businesses, right? So even though government may want to listen to the plight of the people, they also have to be very aware of the charter of ECOWAS in which Ghana is a member of, and also what do not flout those things. So that is what the external environment on it. So Ghana, the same country Ghana, is a member of the Charter of the United Union, which is to ensure the protection of the fundamental human rights of people. So even though, if for example, if people are calling upon certain things, actions should be taken which may infringe on the fundamental human rights of certain individuals, the government will not be able to do that, or will be careful and mindful of that, because there's also what an external environment that has its own what influence that affects its what decision what making, which means as part of the UN, they will not be able to take such what measures or go in such ways. So going forward, some of this external environment, as we are talking about, is what the World Bank. So you realize that the World Bank may give Ghana some monies, but these monies will come with conditionalities, telling you that okay, fine, these monies would have to go into construction of this and this and this road. That's part of it. So when Ghana went HEPIC in 2000, you realize that there were some buildings that were constructed in the country, some schools that were written HEPIC benefit on it. These were some of the conditionalities of some of the things that the IMF and the World Bank were expecting some of the monies, what we are supposed to use it for. So that is what it is. So there's ECOWAS, there's UN, and there's what International Monetary Fund and other external agencies that are also there. But these are the few that have been mentioned over here. An example is what we've gone through, giving loans with policy conditions, which is budget or transparency. The IMF, monetary economy, give financial aid with what austerity rules, as I've mentioned earlier. ECOWAS promote regional cooperation. That is there. The UN set developmental goals of human rights or standards, and then what foreign ambassadors, embassies, foreign embassies, who has to do influence through what diplomacy, trade, and then what and support. So all these are some of the examples we've spoken about when it comes to the external environment. And then two, the internal environment. These are local or national level actors and conditions that shapes what the political system responds to. So these are local actors. There are some local actors that has influence on government's decision or what government has to do. So the internal environment, some examples of these are CDD Ghana. This is a civil society in Mani Ghana. All these are civil societies that sometimes exert certain pressure on government in terms of certain policies they want to embark on. Sometimes you see government may abandon certain policies because of pressure from civil society. The Christian Council of Ghana also. For example, in Ghana, you realize that the Christian Council of Ghana over the period have been exerting some pressure on government in terms of issues of LGBTQ plus, which they call for policies that has to be done to curtail some activities of LGBTQ plus. So you realize that this is what if government seeking to pursue a policy like this is based on the influence, the pressure from what the Christian Council of Ghana and certain other individual civil society group that exerts pressure on government to embark on certain policies. This is what we talk about the internal environment, also having that part on government. So the Ghanaian citizens itself make the traditional rulers, the civil society organizations, there's religious groups, and then the media also. All these are part of the environment. Then we're going straight. We've done with the environment, which has to do with the internal and the external. So now we're moving to the input, where the input has to do with demand and support. So the demand is what the citizens want. What the citizens want. An example are citizens may make demand for a new hospital. They may make demand for low utility bills. They may make a demand for the reduction of petroleum at the pump. They may make a demand for job creations. So all these are demands that are being made by citizens. So when you take the David Easton system theory, you realize that he has what? There is that of what? The environment, and it's been explained very well. Then we also have that of what? The internal that we are starting. So the internal, the input, the environment has with the internal and external. The input has to do with the demand and what? And support. And the demand over here is what citizens want, and I've mentioned them. The support has to do with what citizens give, because if citizens are making demand for new hospitals, job creations, maybe all these things, you know that government needs what support to be able to achieve some of these things. So that support will come in citizens paying tax, obeying laws, and voting. These are part of ways in which support can be done. So if there's a local assembly elections that citizens would have to go, they go out to go and vote for their what, their local what, unit committee members, vote for the assemblymen and women to be able to what perform their functions well and vote for people who are competent and perform their duties well to help what development as they also what request for it. They obey these laws, the laws that have been set by government in terms of having to do what they have to do, and also they have to also pay taxes. So citizens are honest and pay their taxes so government can perform some of these demands they are making from government. So the input has to do with what? As I've mentioned, demand and what? And support. So as we said, you see a picture of on my right side, you see a picture from the BBC where Ghanaians were engaged in a demonstration then in 2015 when they were demanding of government to deal with what we call dumsor, which is erratic power outages that we're experiencing what they were experiencing in the country then. This is what you see. So a demand was made on government, and due to the demand of Ghanaians, government would have to respond. You see that also in 2023, 2024, you see Ghanaians were actively engaged in the various demonstrations demanding or asking of government to deal with the menace of illegal mining that what actually engulfed the country and its bodies. So this also shows you some of these demands that have been made on government. And the support also comes in, as you see a flyer from the GRA that was admonishing Ghanaians to pay their taxes. This is one of the flyer that was made by GRA when government brought about the free education, having to let Ghanaians people understand that your taxes are what is being used to fund the free education and all these things. So there's a need to pay taxes. So you see that from the GRA, and you see somebody taking part in the voting, which is governed or which is conducted by the Electoral Commission of Ghana. So you see somebody doing that. Also, taking part in civic duty to make sure that people are elected, responsible people are elected who can actually take part in governance and do well for the people. We move to the processing, which is the black box. This is where the demands are debated and turn into policies. So in the black box, you find key people within government sectors, from the executive, the president, the cabinet members, the ministers. You find legislature, which is parliament. You find judiciary. You find bureaucracy. You find the bureaucrats. You find the local authorities. All these are found in the black box. So the executive and the cabinet, where government will sit down to deliberate upon issues, how they can deal with some of these demands. So, for example, as Ghanaians were making a demand on the then NDC government, the National Democratic Congress government, then in 2015, making a demand on them. 2014, having to deal with the erratic power supply called what we call dumsor. You realize that at numerous times, the president then, which was John Dramani Mahama, had to convey cabinet for cabinet to see how they can deal with this power supply. So they had to bring in emergency power supply for Ameri and other things to have to deal with this problem. So you find even the then minister coming out to say that he would he will even resign if he's not able to help deal with this particular menace or challenge. So all these things were happening in the black box, where government is trying to take decisions how these things can be solved. You find the legislature, which is parliament, where parliament will come to be and then see what measures can they also laws can they bring in place to make sure that these laws will be able to help the government on the day achieve its its output, or achieve its goal, or help the people also achieve. So for example, Ghanaians are calling for the repeal of an act that allows mining in forest belt. This will be, if this will be done, it will be done through parliament. So as it's a demand, and parliament within the processing box will deliberate upon this. It will go to the committee level. People will bring their ideas and they'll ponder over it and see how the law should be done, how it should be crafted, what should be put in place to be able to get a perfect law to deal with or the demand of Ghanaians. So the judiciary, they also come in if should in case they also have to bring out a ruling to have to deal with this. For example, when the health insurance was used as a registration document to show for registration in the voter registration, what you realized was that um, somebody sent this particular thing to court, and the court made a ruling that in Ghana, one cannot use their health insurance card to register as a voter. This was what a demand, and the court took part of this in the debate process and bringing an outcome. The bureaucracy is part of this process, where they also have to help make sure all these things are done and how it will be implemented. Local authorities and all this, they are all part of the processing box. So the processing box on my left side, you see a picture of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Below, you see a picture of the Flagstaff House or the Jubilee House, anyhow you'd want to refer to it. But that is a seat of government of the Republic of Ghana. And then what you see over here also on the right hand side is the forecourt of what? The Supreme Court of the Republic of Ghana, which are all part of the processing box. We move to output and feedback. So the results of government action. So when people were complaining to government that there were challenges with the health insurance program, that when they go there, government brought NHIS what reforms through parliament. So the free education, people also make demands of what education, and government brought free education. So that is how it is. Currently, you find also the NDC government would have to give an output of how to deal with the 24 hours economy. This is all part of it. This is all part of what the output. So the feedback has to do with protest, public praise, and media commentary. So you realize that feedback may come when people may show that they are displeased with whatever maybe policy government may have done or whatever action government want to take. So protests can make government also know that no, people are displeased with this particular action we want to take. And then public praise can also make government actually know that no, the people are actually pleased with what they are doing, and people actually would want them to what carry on with what they are doing. And media commentaries are all part of the way toward for feedback. And then output, as I said, you see, in May, when Ghanaians complain about fuel prices being high, realize that when the currency appreciated against the dollar, where you had the currency around 10 cities, 10.43 to what a dollar to $1, that actually had improved the economy. And then you saw that the chamber of oil marketing companies reduced petroleum products, which actually had an effect on the pump. Also, this led to the GPRTU on Monday, 19th May, having to declare that they are going to reduce transport fares by 15% on the 24th of May. So this is output, because people make demand of this, and then this is the output, some of the output we are talking about. So there are some of these output can also be what we are talking, can even be in terms of law, legislation, and all these things. Then there's feedback. Citizens can show their feedback by also through voting to show that they're displeased. So you realize that in 2016, when Ghanaians went to the polls, they voted against the then ruling government, which is the NDC, saying that they were displeased with how they've handled the economy and how they have not fulfilled their promises. In the same way, in 2024, you find Ghanaians going to the polls. They voted against the then government, having to also show that they are displeased with the MPP's performance. So that can also be in the form of a feedback. Then the gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are a group of institutions that helps deliver citizens' voice to the government. So the gatekeepers are media, civil society, and religious leaders. So you realize that people over the period, the media are gatekeepers, where they make the voices of the people, government, to know if people are displeased, they're okay with it. So you realize that in 2024, the media were also part of the championing of the cause of having to deal with the menace of Galamsey. So you realize that a lot of media folks were all focusing on Galamsey, bringing government attention that this is what the people are saying, and they are displeased with the nature of our water bodies and what is happening. You find civil societies like Imani Ghana also having to show how displeased they are with some of these challenges of Galamsey and other issues they talk about. Likewise, religious leaders. So these are some of the gatekeepers: media and civil society. Imani Ghana, you have that of the likes of CT, the multimedia group, where you have the likes of Joy FM, Adom, Multimedia. All these are all media and also civil society. These are not the only ones, there are a lot, but these are a few on our screen. So, in a nutshell, as I've explained, the environment is what the society. Examples over there. So this is a tabular word form for you to know what the components, which is the environment, input, processing, output, feedback, gateway, and then the explanation for each. That of also Ghana's example as a case study. That is what has been done in this format. And then finally, some brain activities that you can take note of and do on your own when you're free. I said, mention like what a current was issued in Ghana, going through, or whatever you find yourself, whatever country you find yourself, if it's Togo, like Cote d'Ivoire, whatever, mention the current issue in your country, right? And then go through the system and ask yourself, What is the demand? Whose process is it? Who is processing it? What was the outcome? Was there feedback? Who were the gatekeepers? You can ponder over this and have answers for yourself to know what it was. And then another activity you can also apply is identify one demand in your community. Trace how it went through the system. Who were the gatekeepers? What was the outcome? Was there feedback? Thank you very much for having time to listen to our lecture on this particular topic, understanding the system theory in politics.